Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of 3 Point Weekly. Another great week of NBA basketball. We had the much heavily anticipated return of Ben Simmons to Philly. And as Gabe was very happy about, we had another big performance from LeBron James. I know he wants to push the narrative. I'll let him get started with it, talking about LeBron's performance.
Hey. I'm just saying, who else in year 19, being at the age of 37, has had two 50-point games within a week? We talking about the king, man. We talking about the king from Cleveland, just a kid from Akron, Ohio. What's the last time something good came out of Ohio? Let me ask you that. That's really impressive. You're still in Ohio. You haven't came out of Ohio though. You're still in Ohio. So LeBron is crazy, man. Let me not get too hyperbolistic and say LeBron is the MVP, but hey, if any of you guys are undecided, just know you can't ever count this man out. They thought he was washed. They thought he was the washed king. LeBron will never be washed.
I think if the Lakers were like top 6 maybe in the West, he would have a legit case, but that team is just so bad. And it's sad that LeBron has to go to these heights. I probably said this last week too, that he has to go to these heights for this team to be competitive. And it was kind of a wild week for them. They lost the game against San Antonio, and then they lost the game in Houston where Bron kind of had a layup, but he passed it up to Melo, and then they ended up losing the game in OT. And then the performance last night, I kind of turned the game off because I was just like not interested in watching the Lakers. But shout out to Bron. The Lakers don't deserve his greatness this season because the team is just so bad. But he's still amazing and it's crazy in year 19, like you said, Gabe. He's still doing unhuman-like things.
Yeah, did you hear LeBron was going to the Raptors next year?
I didn't hear that.
Oh, well. Trust me, via sources, trust me, bro. I think LeBron's coming to the Raptors.
I think if Bron really wants to prove his greatness, he needs to go to the Sacramento Kings and just make the playoffs. That's it.
Oh, my goodness.
No, but shout out to Bron, man. It's just been a string of like unreal performances like for the last couple weeks. Like Gary Trent had 40 last night in Phoenix. Shout out to GT, man. He went off. Big win for the Raptors because they've been struggling lately.
Him and LeBron, that's the new duo, man. Gary Trent and LeBron, they're going to lead Toronto to another one.
Hey, maybe.
Trust in Masai. If we draft Bronny, that's pretty much the key. You just got to draft Bronny, and then LeBron's coming to your team. So it's going to be a sweepstakes.
Shout out to Coach Pop as well if we're giving our shout-outs. Now the most winning coach in NBA history.
Let me ask y'all. Is he the best coach ever, or do y'all give that to Phil Jackson?
I got it to Pop. Pop's my best coach of all time.
I would give it to Pop just because Phil's had more talent.
True, but Pop had all of his success with Tim Duncan. Essentially with Tim Duncan. So it's kind of a toss-up for me. I don't know. You can kind of go either way. You can make arguments for both guys. I would say they're the top 2 coaches ever, though, for sure. It's kind of like, I guess, with the LeBron and MJ debate, like, you can go either way. Sometimes I'm with Pop, sometimes I'm with Phil. It's crazy, but, I mean that's a lot of wins, bro. 13-36, that is a lot of wins. Shout out to Greg Popovich. Yeah.
I would say Pop is probably, from like the X's and O's standpoint, he's probably the best. The offense the Spurs run, I mean, anytime if you go to the park or go to the open gym and you like have some crazy ball movement, what are you saying? You're saying, oh, we just play some Spurs basketball. Every time. It's literally like that crazy good ball movement, just great team play is synonymous with him. So it's like Phil Jackson did some great things. And I think as far as from the perspective of managing egos and like being a good player coach, I would say Phil Jackson is the greatest. But just from like pretty basketball being executed on the court, it's got to be Pop.
I think the only stain on Pop's legacy is going to be that Kawhi situation, just how poorly that was managed. Because imagine if that didn't happen. Like, he might have gotten another championship. Because remember, I think it was in 2016 that Spurs team won like 67 games, and they were the 2 seed because the Warriors had the best season of all time. Like, who knows if Kawhi could have stayed healthy and with the Spurs, just how different maybe Pop's legacy is. He might have another chip or two.
Up 20 on the Spurs, man. Or, I mean, up 20 on the Warriors in Game 1. Not saying they would have won that series, but hey, without Zaza Pachulia, Toronto probably doesn't have a ring. So everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, that's a big what if for sure.
But yeah, I completely agree with your point, Gabe. Phil Jackson, I definitely think of as more of a superior player manager and managing egos, whereas Pop, from an X's and O standpoint, probably hasn't beat. And Phil Jackson, don't get me wrong, still has a good basketball mind, but I think Tex Winter also helped a lot from an X's and O standpoint comparative to the implementation and the influence of the X's and O's from Popovich on the Spurs. So, yeah, both brilliant coaches, no doubt about it. Definitely the
Which,
top
I mean,
two.
Yeah, on Phil's side, like, managing egos is not an easy thing to do.
No,
especially
God,
when you have
no.
you're playing with you have Michael Jordan, you got Scottie Pippen, Dennis Rodman, and then Shaq and Kobe. You got to manage all that. That's not an easy thing to do, but he did that and was able to win 11 championships. That is ridiculous, man. So both of those guys, the greatest 2 coaches of all time for sure. Whether you want to take Phil or Pop, that's up to you. Either way, those are undisputably the top 2 coaches in NBA history.
I don't even know who the third would be. Maybe like Red Auerbach, something like that.
Pat Riley, maybe.
Pat Riley.
Yeah.
That's a good option too.
Yeah.
But top 2 it's basically the same as players. Players and coaches, it's like the top 2 within the field.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree, man. But I mean, it's been kind of the last couple weeks. I feel myself getting more excited to watch basketball again because there's always that period in the season where it's just like you're watching some games, but you're kind of bored with it because, you know, it's getting closer to All-Star break and then the trade deadline happens. But now it's like, okay, we're getting ramped up for the postseason. You know, we're like, maybe less than 20 games away. It's getting closer. Like, we're about a month out from playoff basketball. So what has kind of, you know, left an imprint on you guys' memory lately, like over the last couple of weeks?
People are playing crazy, man. Like, it seems like every night somebody just has a crazy game. Whether it was like within the last week, we've obviously had LeBron drop 50 twice. We had Jokic with that like 30 in just the fourth quarter in OT and a comeback win. Honestly, the excitement, even though it was a blowout, like the whole atmosphere of Nets versus Sixers, the fact that they came to boo Ben Simmons and ended up booing their own team, that's just so, like, the entertainment value is so high, whether it's storylines or, like, every other night you get to see, like, Giannis, Jokic, or Embiid. Basically, I would say those are the top 3. You have one of them prove, like, where they rank in the MVP race. And then there's, like, some random player drops 40, like, every other night, whether it's, like I think Julius Randle had 40 a couple days ago or maybe high 30s.
Yeah,
36 last night as
what
well.
I thought. And then
Darius Garland,
like Gary Trent. Yeah, Darius Garland, Gary Trent Jr. It's like ever since the All-Star break, people are just coming out insane. And so like I don't know if this is me like tripping, but it just feels like the quality of the product has been at a ridiculous high.
Yeah, I can agree. I feel like there's a lot more teams that are at the bottom of conferences that have been a lot more competitive lately as well. Like, there's not many games other than teams that are really struggling with injuries where you go into most games and think, oh, this isn't going to be at least some amount of a contest. Like, Orlando have been playing decent basketball. Detroit have been playing quite good basketball. The Knicks still haven't been great, but at least Julius Randle's been playing better, so they've been a little bit more competitive. The Hawks have won over half of their last 10 games. Houston have had some positive signs. Like, other than maybe the Kings as of late, unfortunately, most games you can kind of go into, and there hasn't been a ton of games that look like they're going to be completely uncompetitive. There's been a lot of teams that aren't really getting pushed over anymore, so it's made for some good basketball to watch for sure.
This is King Slander Weekly. I feel like we literally just
I just got to speak it as it is, man. Once the Kings start playing well, I will be the first to give them all their credit if they can get into the playoffs. But they made a win now move, and they're 2-8 in their last 10. So I just got to say it as it is.
Yeah, I kind of like I gave them the business in one of my last videos because I was just like, bro, y'all are just so terrible. Like, how do you let Julius Randle get 46 when he's just been so iffy all season long? And then I think
he's kind of been putting it together recently.
He has, but like they were up like 20 points, and they ended up losing by 20 points. Like, that is crazy. At home against the Knicks, like, super embarrassing, man. But like y'all said, the quality of basketball has just been off the charts. Some teams in the mix of the playoff race have really been stepping up, and some teams have kind of been struggling. The Bulls really come to mind of a team that's been struggling. The Cavs have been kind of iffy lately too. But I want to talk like teams that you guys maybe they're not like top of the conference right now, maybe in a little bit of the middle of the pack, but you still think they have a chance to make a nice run in the postseason. What are some teams from each conference that you guys are eyeing?
I'll let you go first.
That's tough. That's tough. I don't think pretty much anything out east is going to be easy. I mean, right now, the 7 and the 8 seed, assuming they win their play-in tournament games, are the Raptors and the Nets. The Nets obviously are a big name from a contender standpoint, but sitting in the 8 seed, man, that is a brutal first-round matchup for a 1 or a 2 seed. Like,
Yeah.
That is brutal. And I don't necessarily think Nets are comfortable favorites to get out of the East, but they sure as hell aren't going to be easy to beat. And the same can be said for the Raptors. They're not obviously at the same level as the Nets, but they're a tough team to play. They compete, except for when they play bad teams, apparently. This is going to be a tough team to beat. So I don't think there's any easy outs in the East. And I think Denver are going to continue to be a team to look out for as well, as far as a not top-end team out West. As long as Jokic continues to play as the lead of the level as he has been, which I don't see why he wouldn't continue, they're not going to be an easy out, regardless of whether it's the Warriors that play them or the Grizzlies. They're going to be a tough matchup to play in the first round.
I would definitely look out for Denver. I think they have I've been loving what I'm seeing from Jokic recently. Barring the end of that Warriors game, it seems like he's just always doing the right thing. And just look at the stat sheet, look at the eye test, look whatever you need to look at. The man is just unstoppable. And a lot of the teams at the top of the West don't really have like a dominant big man. There's like Ayton is pretty good, obviously Rudy, but like the Mavericks, the Warriors, the Grizzlies, I don't think they have anybody that's stopping or even like coming close to slowing down Jokic. And even like he's still gonna put in some business against Rudy and Ayton. That's for sure. So it's just like a player that you don't want to go against. And then if they get some of their guys back, I feel like I talked about this last week too. It's such scary hours over there. They're scary. That's all I'll say.
The team I'm looking at more in the West, the more I just watch them, I'm like loving the brand of basketball. It's the Dallas Mavericks. I'm really bought in, man. Gabe, I give you the credit. Spencer Dinwiddie was a very good pickup, man. He's turned it around. He's really turned it around. And then, of course, you know what you're getting from Luka, man. But I'm loving how like the pick and roll with the White Powers looking like it was a couple of years ago before the bubble. It's looking really good. Brunson has been very solid all season long. And then guys are hitting shots like Reggie Bullock is hitting the shots. Luka can make something out of nothing. Like this team on paper doesn't look super talented. But if you're just getting like good games from Spencer Dinwiddie, you're getting production from Brunson, and then Kleber's hitting shots. Dorian Finney-Smith is hitting shots. I got to give him a shout out. That makes his team so deadly because Luka's so good. He only needs so much from his other guys. So that's a team like I really think they can beat maybe anybody in the first round. Like they can really contend with anybody in that first round, no matter who it is. But if they're sitting like the 4 or 5 seed, if they play Utah, I think we mentioned this last week. Like Dallas will probably be the favorite in that series. I even think like they can give the Warriors a run for their money. I think they could give the Grizzlies a run for their money. That's a scary team. That is a very scary team that I don't think anybody wants to see in the first round.
I'd probably pick the Mavericks over the Jazz. In a 7-game series, honestly, just thinking about it, the way the Jazz have been exposed year after year, I feel like it's only going to get easier to game plan and take them out. And, the Mavericks are like a half game away from having home court advantage, and they've been playing better recently. So by the time we get to playoff time, they might have home court advantage in that series. Now, could the matchup change? Could they end up playing Denver first round or something? Yeah, I think they would, and I think that's probably a harder matchup in my opinion. But, yeah, the Mavericks could easily make a run. And then with the Suns, like, health issues and stuff, if they still got guys out in the playoffs, if they're, like, not back in the full swing, they're definitely beatable. Still a great team, but beatable.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Dallas have looked great. They're arguably the hottest team in the league right now over the last couple of weeks, and specifically since the trade deadline. And to your point, Gabe, as much as the Suns, I think, are significantly better than everyone else in the West right now, I also don't think they're unbeatable by any stretch. I don't think anyone in this year's league is unbeatable. I think everyone is beatable for the most part. And I think that's what's going to make it such an exciting playoffs going into it is there's not necessarily it's going to have to be a Suns versus Heat or it's so open. And Dallas are very much going to be part of that conversation. I think they are favored against Utah. And I think they have a chance against pretty much everyone else in the West, although, of course, the Suns would be much more difficult than everyone else. I think they've given themselves a real shot. I think Luka's been right on top of his game since he started off slow at the start of the year. This is a good team. They're going to be tough to beat in the playoffs, no doubt.
Yeah, and I really got to, apologize for, I really criticized them heavily for not only their offseason, but, of course, the trade deadline. I really did not think, they got better off of that move. I didn't think they necessarily got worse, but I didn't think that they improved that much. I was wrong, and it's really opened the game up so much for Luka. You don't have to worry about trying to get Porzingis his touches and stuff, so Luka can just rock out and do what he does. They're kind of building kind of similar to how the Hawks just, they let Trae Young work, and then they got second and third guys that can shot create. They're not super elite, but if they're playing good, they're good for 16, 18 points a night. So I got to give a shout out to their front office. They really made necessary moves, and sometimes less is more for guys like a Luka Doncic.
All right, so to switch the subject a little bit, I want to ask, now that we've seen a little bit more of the 76ers on the East side, how are we feeling about them now as a contender, and what do we think is at stake for them? Is it championship or bust, or do we think they have kind of a year since they just got formed halfway through the season? Or what would it take to say you consider the trade a success versus a failure?
I don't think it's championship or bust, but that's assuming that James Harden resigns, which seems likely, but we also didn't think that James Harden was going to be leaving Brooklyn a year later. So if Harden ends up jumping ship and they don't win a title this year, then that looks tough. That looks really tough. Even though, of course, you were going to trade away Ben Simmons anyways. It's not like he just randomly traded away Ben Simmons. It still doesn't look great. So assuming James Harden resigns, I'm not really too concerned if they don't win a title this year. I think they are title contenders. But at the end of the day, you are throwing in a very high usage guy in middle of the season, trying to mesh alongside another star in Joel Embiid. Not to say that it can't happen, but obviously you're going to naturally gain chemistry and improve as a duo and as a team over time. So I think they are title contenders, but assuming that James Harden is around more than just this year and next year, I don't think it's championship or bust. But if they end up being one of those teams that's a surprise first-round exit, that's a whole other story. But I don't really anticipate that happening.
I'm gonna say it kind of is championship or bust. I'm gonna just stay on that side of the fence. The reason I say that is because, of course, you made the home run swing. You waited so long to trade Ben Simmons to get James Harden. So, okay, you're going all in. And Joel Embiid, this is his best season that he's had in the NBA. He's been available, which has been a big, question mark with him every single season. He's 28 years old right now. You don't know how many more great years you really have out of him because he is a big body. And he has injury history. James Harden, you don't know. The decline might be slowly coming. He's still elite, but the decline is definitely on the way. I think we've seen shades of it, even though he came to Philly and looked like James Harden again. It's bound to happen. So this window is not that big, man. It's really not that big. And once you do re-sign James Harden, he's going to ask for a lot of money. You're not going to have a lot of money to really reshape this roster too much. Maybe if you get off Tobias Harris' contract, but if you do trade him, you're not going to get that much in return. So they're kind of in a tricky spot. I think this is the most open the Eastern Conference is probably going to be, for the near future. So you have to take advantage of this opportunity, man. Just like how the Bucks did last season, they took advantage of the opportunity. You got to do the same thing this year, man. I think if you don't at least make it to the conference finals and make a real push to make it to the NBA finals, this is a failure of a season for this team because you arguably have maybe not the MVP, but he's one of the top candidates. James Harden is elite. Tyrese Maxey's playing out of his mind. And then you got supplementary pieces around those guys. So I don't know how much better this team can get in the future. I think this season is the window, and at the very most, next season is the window for this team to win the championship.
Yeah, like you said, I think they at least got to go conference finals. And I think if they do fall short, I feel like the one thing we cannot see is James Harden underdeliver, just because his history and like closeout games and like playoffs in general, just what we've seen from him over the course of his career. I feel like if he pulls up short with Joel Embiid on his team, with Tyrese Maxey as a guard next to him playing the way he's playing, and then just everything around them, the discourse is going to be crazy. Like, just not even just like people talking on TV, because we know they're going to be what they are, but just general, like,
a winning player. I think this is almost his last chance.
and show that he can be a winning player. I mean, now it's his fourth team, but third team as a star. And at this point, it's like, you got to get it done here. You played with so many incredibly talented players.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he can't be doing shit like he just did the other night against Brooklyn. He can't do that, bro. Like, I'm not trying to, like, really gauge too much off of just one game, because that would be very immature of me to do that. But he can't do that in the postseason, man. He has to be arguably the best player on the floor, man. I mean, like I mentioned, like, when this trade happened, there's no more excuses for James Harden. He has to go out there and be James Harden. He has to go out there and be elite, and he has to make a run with this team.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's similar to, and not to the same extent, but when we were talking about Jason Tatum the other week and talking about that level of consistency that he needs, not that James Harden is anywhere near as inconsistent, but those types of games just can't be acceptable for someone at this point in time in his career at his caliber. Like, an off game should not be 3 for 17 for 11 points, and given there was some good defense played against him. But at the end of the day, James Harden does got to do better than that. And I don't doubt that he will be able to do better than that, but he's got to be able to show it come playoff time.
But come on, man. No disrespect to Kyrie Irving at all. He's a quality defender. He's not as bad as people try to make it out. But, bro, you should not let Kyrie really, like, have you in shackles like that, man. That's inexcusable.
Yeah.
And in the playoffs, that's Ben Simmons who's going to be on him. So
If
if Kyrie Irving did that to you on defense, like, what is Ben Simmons doing to you on that side?
Yeah, if Ben Simmons is playing, man, I don't know. I'm so excited for the playoffs. Like, I wish it was starting this weekend. I'm ready.
Yeah, we got March Madness.
I agree.
First.
I feel like we kind of know what we're about to see here. That really, it's like in both conferences, it's like maybe some like 3s and 4s could mess around, but I feel like we kind of know what most of like the 2-7's going to be. We know what the 2-8s are going to be. The only thing that might change it is the play-in. Like, we don't know if we're seeing Nets Heat or Nets Bucks. I would prefer to see Nets Bucks given the history of last year.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'd like my Raptors to be secure a little bit quicker. So,
All right, let's do a little. If the playoffs started today, let's go through the first round matchups and pick the winners. Does that sound cool?
I'm with it.
All right, bet. So the 1-8 would be Miami Heat, who have been playing really good basketball, and the Brooklyn Nets. Who would y'all take in that series?
That's tough. A 1-8 should not be this tough, but it is.
Honestly, I guess I'll go first since I proposed the question. I think I would take the Heat in 6. I really do think I'll take Miami in 6, man. I think they're built to beat a team like Brooklyn, no matter who's on the court. I think they're built to beat those guys. Give me Miami in 6, man. That's my hot take, I guess. Even though they're the ones.
I was gonna say Miami in 7.
Yeah, that's probably what I.
But realistically, I think my actual first round matchup would be Heat versus Nets if we predicted the play-in. I mean, Heat versus Raptors. In that case, I'd probably say Heat in 5.
Yeah, probably.
Well, if it was today, it would be Nets.
Yeah.
That's not fair. That's not a fair first round matchup, man. The 2-7 though would be the Milwaukee Bucks defending champs against y'all's Toronto Raptors. Take how many games?
Bucks in 5.
I agree.
Yeah, it's got to be.
I'll give the Raptors a game because they're such a scrappy team and they're talented. I think they could take maybe like a game 3 at home, but the Bucks, I think they just have too much. It's got
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah, I agree. No Kawhi, no Ibaka, no Gasol. The wall is gone. It ain't there.
This could be an interesting matchup, honestly. 3-6, the 76ers against the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's a very interesting one.
I'd like to give the Cavs some credit, but I still think the 76ers win that relatively comfortable. I'd probably have them in 6.
In 6.
Yeah, I say 76ers in 5 or 6. I think Cleveland can do some nice things, but given Jared Allen might be like freshly back into the lineup, and then I'm still going to give James Harden the benefit of the doubt over Darius Garland head-to-head. Even though Garland's been great, James Harden is James Harden. So, yeah, give me the Sixers.
I would take Philly in 6 also. Cavs are just so young. And if Allen's not back, Mobley's very good. But Embiid will have his way. I watched Bam last night. Really, he was torturing Evan Mobley, bro.
Yeah, he was.
He's not to the level where he can really contend with those elite bigs right now. He's going to get there, but not right now. And then the 4 or 5, this is probably the Bulls at the 4 seed and the Celtics at the 5 seed. That's a tough. I'm gonna take the season 7 just based off of what I've seen like over the last month of basketball, but it could still go either way given both teams being healthy.
Season 5.
In 5?
In 5. Do the Bulls even have 2 wins against teams with winning records all season?
I think they have exactly
They might.
2. I think
They might have 2 wins against maybe not teams with winning records, but against like
I think above 600 teams. I think is what it is.
Yeah. Teams that are this good, as good as the Celtics. The Bulls have like 2 wins all season, so I don't think they're gonna get more than 2 wins. Your prediction is having them get more wins than they've had against these types of teams all season in a 7-game span, and so I'm saying they might get 1.
That's a hot one.
Yeah, I'd probably go 6 to Boston. Even assuming Boston jump into the 4 seed and have home court advantage, I still believe enough in Chicago, especially once Caruso and Lonzo are back, that they can get a couple, but I'm not overly confident by any stretch. And as much as DeRozan has been better this year, he still hasn't exactly ever been great in the playoffs, which I hate to say, but it's the reality of DeRozan's playoff performances so far.
So for the West, can we also predict the play-in? Because I feel like I don't know if the 7 and 8 are really going to be the teams that are there.
I think they
so
are.
I feel like you think so. You think
Yeah.
you think the Timberwolves and Clippers?
I think so.
Yes. Yeah. Lakers have to win 2 straight games. I don't even know if they'll beat the Pelicans, honestly.
I don't know if they would either. And I would personally have the Timberwolves beating the Clippers, and the Lakers don't beat the Clippers. So,
yeah, the same.
But we see Zion's been with the team, right?
I don't think Zion's
Zion
playing
comes
this season. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think he plays this season.
If he did, do you think they could take back-to-back games against the Lakers and the Clippers?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
No.
I think I trust Ty Lue in a 1-game situation to put together an immaculate game plan
I
and
agree.
make the playoffs.
I agree. I also don't think Zion coming back this late in the season will help as much as some people might think it does, because now you have BI to get touches to, Zion to get touches to, CJ to get touches to, Devontae Graham's still going to want his touches. Not to say they'll be worse, but there is going to be some things they're going to have to figure out on offense.
And they'll probably be on a minutes restriction.
That's also true. True.
That is fair. Hey, with all that said, though, whoever gets that 8 seed, Suns in 4.
Well, right now it would be the Clippers. I would probably go Suns in 5. I'll give the Clippers 1 game. Assuming Paul George is not back, I'll give the Clippers 1 game.
You guys have not predicted 1 sweep yet. I think this is there's always a sweep or 2 every year, and I think this is going to be it.
There is, but I feel like this is probably as closely contested the NBA has been in such a long time. Like when you look at the 2-7, Memphis and Minnesota, I don't think those teams are like that far apart in my eyes, like talent-wise. I could see like the Timberwolves winning a couple games in that series.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
how I feel right now.
I agree.
But if there was a team to get a sweep, it would probably be the Suns. I could see them sweeping the Clippers, but I'll give the Clippers a game.
Yeah, I'm giving the Clippers a game too. They're too scrappy. They fight hard. I don't think they're going down without one.
Predicting a sweep is so disrespectful. Like,
Yeah, it's like I don't feel that bad about a team in the playoffs this year. Like, there's been some years in the East where you have like Detroit as the 8th seed or Orlando as the 8th seed, where it's like they're a step below everyone else, but I don't feel that way about anyone in the playoffs this year.
very true, man. So we can move on to the 2-7, which would be the 2-seeded Memphis Grizzlies, who are a half game ahead of the Warriors, and they would be playing the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are about a couple and a half games back at the 6th seed. So they might be stuck here in the play-in. Who would y'all take in this series? How many games?
I'd have Memphis for sure. I'd probably say Memphis in 5. I wouldn't be surprised if it went 6, but I'd probably say Memphis in 5. This Timberwolves team is still really low on playoff experience. Best is ahead of them, but I think the Grizzlies are significantly better enough that they probably take work of things. I think they're built for the playoffs as well as far as a young team goes. Obviously, they aren't great in experience, but they are scrappy. They work hard. They're good defensively, and they do have good leadership from guys like Dylan Brooks, Steven Adams, Ja Morant himself. So I think they probably take this in 5.
I want to pick the Timberwolves so bad, but the fact that I've seen 5 games of playoff Cat, and it was 1 like 5 years ago, and 2 not very good. I can't put enough stock in the Timberwolves' playoff ability to pick them. But I'll give them 2 games. I'll say Grizzlies in 6.
When I look at these teams, they're basically even on playoff experience. They both, like, their top players have played 5-game series. They got some vets that have played some playoff basketball. Pat Bev has. Steven Adams has. And these teams, when they play each other very well. I think they might have actually split the season series 2-2. That being said, I'm going to say Grizzlies in 7. I'm going to say this goes 7 games. I think this is going to be a very closely contested series, but they'll pull away in that game 7, man. I'll take Memphis in 7.
I think Grizzlies just they put together a little bit more consistency. I feel like especially from I feel like some nights Anthony Edwards can explode for like 34th, and other nights he can literally have like 13. So I think you'll get a couple explosive Anthony Edwards games, but then the other games I think the Grizzlies will just be too much. I think Cat's going to bring the same level of production every night. I think he's going to do his thing.
I don't know. I think that's going to be an interesting series. I do hope we get that as a first-round matchup. I think that has the potential to be one of the most fun first-round series that we see this year.
Yeah,
that's why I said I really want to pick the Timberwolves. I think they could really – I need to see some playoff Jay Vando.
I feel that. I'd love to see them win, but I don't know. The best is ahead of them, though. They're still super young. They got a lot moving forward.
Well, I think this 3-6 could potentially be like a dogfight, man. The Golden State Warriors and y'all's favorite team, the Denver Nuggets. Who would y'all take in this series? How many games?
Nuggets in 6.
Nuggets in 6, he says. I like the
let
Nuggets.
Me
I don't know if I like
get
them that
hot
much.
takes. Let me get a hot take out in here. Warriors ain't been the same team since Clay came back. We'll start it right there. Draymond has been out forever. Are they going to have time to really get everything situated? Because they still have not had their full team play at the same time, really.
Not to mention Wiseman has to come back still as well, and they have to get him into the lineup.
Wiseman's not back. Now, their 2 rookies they have this year, they're like pretty significant pieces. Do they have that playoff experience? No, they don't. The Nuggets, man, this whole Nuggets team has pretty much been the same core forever. Pretty much every player on that team has some sort of playoff experience. If Jokic and Porter, or not Jokic, if Murray and Porter come back, that's just even more fuel to the fire. And Jokic is unstoppable. I watched they literally came back against the Warriors like 2 nights ago. They just folded at the very end. And I think that was some very uncharacteristic turnovers by Jokic at the end there. So I don't think he does that regularly. I think they can pull it out.
That's interesting, Gabe. You
I
said
said I know last week I said I would take the Warriors, but I need to get at least. There's an upset that happens every year.
that
I
is
need to
true.
I need to predict at least one, and I think this is the spot for it.
Give me the Dubs in 7, man. I think Jokic is good enough to push this series to 7 games. We saw last year he was good enough to beat a team that was immensely more talented than what the Nuggets were in the Blazers, but he was able to win that series largely due to his play. I don't know. I just don't think – I think the Warriors will figure it out once Draymond eventually comes back. Clay's more integrated into the offense. Maybe Wiseman is back. Maybe he's not. I don't think that'll be that big of a deal if he's not back. I think they'll figure it out enough to at least get out of the first round.
Yeah, I agree. I do have Golden State in 7. Wiseman should be back. I think he got sent down to the G League for a couple of games last week, so I think he'll be back within the team the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I do still have some concerns about the Warriors. I don't feel confident about them past the first round, but I think with Draymond back, just a little bit more continuity, having their main facilitator back on the offense, I think it's going to be a dogfight. I think it's going to be a really close series, but I got the Warriors in 7.
Just with the matchups and experience, I really feel like the Warriors would do better against the Grizzlies than they would against the Nuggets. So I think that if they beat the Nuggets, I definitely think the Warriors are going to the conference finals.
Interesting. I could see that, yeah. The Grizzlies they just have so little experience on that roster. So Golden State is probably like their biggest nightmare, but you said the Nuggets are beating Golden State, so it won't even matter.
That is true.
Then the last first round matchup, these teams were separated by half a game. The 4th-seeded Utah Jazz, 5th-seeded Dallas Mavericks. I'm going to just get it out the way. Give me the Mavs in 5 games. I think this is the series that breaks up the Utah Jazz.
Breaks them up. I wouldn't mind that,
man's
but like, how do you break them up?
I don't know, but I think some big changes will happen this offseason if they don't get out this first round. I think some big-time changes. And I will take the Mavs in 5 games. I think – man, I just think like I just don't have a lot of faith in this Jazz team, man. I really don't.
Yeah.
I got too much respect for Donovan Mitchell to say 5 games. I think Mike Conley is probably still better than Spencer Dinwiddie. Let's keep it a buck here.
Maybe.
Rudy is probably the best big man on the court. And I still don't know if I have that much faith in Luka's supporting cast. With that said, Mavs in 6.
Yeah.
With all that said, still Mavs in 6. I think it's time. Luka has made the playoffs twice, played well in the playoffs twice, and got knocked out in the first round twice. I think it's just about that time to where his good play is going to translate to them finally coming out of the series because he's not playing against Kawhi and PG.
Yeah, I got Mavs in 6 as well. As you said, Gabe, you said it exactly as I wanted. Donovan Mitchell's just a performer in the playoffs. No doubt about it. He just ups it up to another level in the playoffs. That's about the only reason I have them in 6. As a whole, I don't really trust the Jazz, but I trust Donovan Mitchell enough that they'll be able to get a couple of results. But I think Dallas are a better team. And I hope Utah do make some changes because ultimately, I talked about this in a video I put out this week. Utah are a good team, and they kind of had to lock up Rudy, but they are what they are now. They don't really have any way with this team to be any better than just maybe getting to the second round or, in this scenario, getting knocked out to the Mavericks. So hopefully they can make some changes and get some better talent around Mitchell. But I think Mitchell will help them get a couple wins here, but I think Dallas end up winning this one.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because we talk about the Jazz like they've been a 1 seed like 3 or 4 different times. They've only been a 1 seed like once, but they just kind of had that reputation like they're a very good regular season team, but they just underperform in the playoffs. And man, like you said, there's just not really much room for this team to get better. I think we talked about this last week. It's just not, man. And Donovan Mitchell is only so good. He can only carry you to so much, man. And I don't know what moves will be made in the offseason. They got Danny Ainge in the front office now, so maybe he can shake something up. But changes have to happen, man, because the rest of the Western Conference is getting better, and the Jazz aren't. They're pretty much like the same team, if not worse than last year on paper. So
They got worse.
I know
The
the
Joe
records.
Ingles, Rudy
Yeah,
Gobert, that pick and roll was like a staple of their offense, and now they don't have
man, it's just like I don't know. This seems just it's kind of hard to watch. It's just like watching a rerun of the same episode over and over and over and over. And it's just, man, a team that I'm kind of getting tired of, honestly.
it. At this point, they're basically the Atlanta Hawks in like 2017.
Yeah.
Like it's a core that was together forever, could not get over the hump, and it's like they're making some changes to try and like get there, and they're not going to.
But you know what's crazy? This is just like the whole like representation of the Jazz franchise going back to the 90s. Like a very good team but they just cannot get over that last hurdle. It's basically the same thing. They had the same issue with the Darren Williams, Carlos Boozer-led teams in the late 2000s. It's just basically it's a rerun, man. And now it's just Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert's turn.
They had a window. I mean, they're literally last year.
Season.
Kawhi goes out in Game 6. You gotta make that conference finals at least. If you end up falling to the Suns, okay. But I think they match up okay with like last year's version of the Suns. I mean, I think the Suns they didn't even make that many changes. They just got better from playing together longer, really.
Yeah.
But I think their window closed. They did not take advantage of their opportunity when they should have.
That's a good conversation. They might have beat the Suns last year because remember Chris Paul missed those first 2 games. They would have had home court advantage, and Mike Conley would have been healthier. Donovan Mitchell's ankle should have been better by that point. They might have messed around and actually beat the Suns. And then who knows? Maybe they do beat the Bucks in the finals because they played the Bucks pretty well the last regular season. So, yeah, they missed their window. It's sad. They really missed their window, man.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I don't know what they do moving forward because Donovan's ultimately their piece, but Gobert's going to be tough to move. So they're in a tough spot.
Let's speak about it. Is Donovan Mitchell good enough to be a number 1 on the championship team?
Without another guy that's pretty much as good as him, no.
Yeah, we talked about this like last week or the week before.
Yeah, we were talking about who's the perfect
for him to be a
star
part
to
of
pair
a
up
good
with him.
duo. Yeah, he needs like a 1B, or maybe he is the 1B to a 1A.
Yeah, I agree.
He's good enough to be a co-star on a championship team.
Yeah,
it's tough, man. They're in that position where no NBA franchise wants to be in. Just like, we're good, but we're not great.
It's tough to acquire that top end talent to make you like that much better. Like, it's tough.
Yeah,
it's really tough. Sometimes all you can do is just be a really good team, not a title contender, and there's not really anything you can do about it.
I think really the best example of what I'm talking about is literally just the Suns. Like Devin Booker, I think he's good enough to be like a 1A or 1B, and then Chris Paul is his 1A or 1B depending on the night.
Yeah, and it's tough.
Mike Conley is just not Chris Paul.
Mike Conley was supposed to be that 1B, but he's still good. He's just not what he was like in 2017, 2018. He's just not as elite as he used to be, which is just tough. They've done all the right things, man. They've made the right trades, the right signings. They drafted so well. Like they got Donovan Mitchell, late lottery. Rudy Gobert was like a late first-round pick.
Yeah, he was 27th, I think. Chris O'Neal was undrafted. Like, they haven't done anything wrong. It's just it's just the way it is. You can't. Sometimes you do everything right, and you don't have a title contender.
And it's probably hard for them to like go through their thought process of going through like a real rebuild, because this is a franchise that's always been fairly like relevant, like fairly decent, at pretty much all points in time. So how are they going to sell that to their fans? Like, we're going to just hit the full reset. Like, we're going to bottom out. That's going to be tough. They're in a very tough spot, man.
Yeah, the only way you don't completely blow it up is if you can somehow convince Donovan Mitchell to stay through like some poor rosters, because he's still pretty young. If you say, yeah, pretty much the only way we're getting off of like Rudy and like Mike Conley's contracts and all that is if we give up enough to where this roster is not looking so hot. But I feel like him staying through that is not a great chance.
Yeah, and even if he does, like he's got 4 years left after this year, the last year of which is a player option. So realistically, you'd have to make a 2-year turnaround. And then if not, he's asking out in the last year of his deal before his player option. So it's probably not likely.
Yeah, we'll see, man. But Gabe, I think you said you wanted to talk MVP candidates again.
Yeah, I mean, now that LeBron's taken number one, like, what are we thinking? How did that happen so fast?
I was not even in my like top 7.
Yeah, no, I'm capping out my ass is what I'm doing. But we've seen some highs and lows out of these candidates now. I feel like Giannis has been the most consistent, but then Embiid and Jokic just come out sometimes and they're just like, how can you not give it to him? But then you turn around and you're like, but then there's the other one of them. So how do you not give it to him? But then now the Bucks are back up to the 2 seed, and Giannis has been Giannis all season. He drops 40 without trying. So
It's sad because I've been pushing the Embiid MVP campaign for like the last 2 or 3 weeks. But I don't know. Jokic has been so good. Giannis, like you said, consistently every night he plays, very good. I don't know. Like I really don't know where to place my bet right now or to put my vote. I'm really so unsure about this. And I don't think I've ever been this, confused about an MVP race ever.
Yeah, no, that's how I feel as well. I feel like there's been such a switch back and forth, as you mentioned, between Joel or Giannis or Jokic for pretty much everyone in the NBA community right now. These guys just have big performances. Someone has an off game. The margin for error is so slim that if someone has an off night and someone has a big night, things change, which is absolutely ridiculous for a full season reward that flips that much from a game-to-game basis. But that's where we're at right now with only about 20 games left with how close this race is.
I mean, this is probably the first season in a while where there's probably been at least 5 or 6 guys in first at different points with legitimate cases. Like it was Curry, then it was KD. At least to me, it was KD for a while.
Yeah.
And then when he went out, I think it kind of went to Embiid. But then Jokic has a great game, and then Giannis is always in the conversation. We've seen like Ja and DeRozan sneak up at different points. I think DeRozan's case is pretty much dead with the way like Chicago plays against good teams.
Yeah.
But even like Ja's always knocking on that door. So it's so wild. I don't know how, if I was a voter, I don't know what I would do.
There's even some Rudy Gobert love early in the year. It's been everywhere.
Oh, that's wild. That's wild. Rudy Gobert love is that clip surfaced the other day.
Yeah.
It was like 2 years ago today.
Yeah.
Rudy Gobert touched all the microphones in the room.
CSD, man.
Then the bubble happened.
The day the world changed.
It's crazy because if Jason Tatum didn't have such a poor start to the season, he might be right there in the like thick of this race.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
Right there.
And I think we could say the same for Luka as well.
Yeah, very true. Like those guys had bad starts, but they're like on the outside of the top 5 in my eyes right now. But with DeMar trending down, Ja's pretty much kind of solidified there. Those guys can move up into the conversation, maybe steal a couple votes, potentially.
Hey, Tatum's been really nice. I saw some Instagram page. I think it's called like Halftime or something. The Halftime. I saw them posting a lot of Jason Tatum love. So
He's been going crazy.
Tyrik, if you want to go, if you want to go look at that page and see some of the stuff he's been doing, man, that's a great.
I think I'll check him out.
Let me plug y'all out. Okay.
I think I'll check him out, man. But yeah, I don't know. Like NBA.com right now, they say Jokic is the front runner. He's the leader. He's number 1 in the MVP ladder, and I think he's been number 1 for like the last couple of weeks. The thing about Jokic, I don't know how the media is really gonna like look at him as reigning MVP. Pretty much like very similar numbers to last year. The Nuggets are like a similar team to last year. I don't know how they're gonna look at him like when they vote. I feel like they might favor an Embiid or maybe even a Giannis over him.
You guys see what Jeff Green said? I think it was last night, maybe the night before.
No,
I didn't see that.
Maybe it was a fake quote and I got baited, but I swear I saw some quote from him that was like, I mean, no offense to our teammates, but Jokic has been carrying us all season.
That
And I'm
don't
like,
seem like
man, if
something
you're our
Derek
own
would
teammate,
say, man. Hold up. I'm about to look that up real quick.
I think that's the
I'm
big
like,
thing
but
that'll change things with voters is how much do they consider the impact of Jamal Murray and MPJ not being there? I think that'll really decide things. Because if people care about that, Jokic should have a really good shot and a really good narrative. But if they don't, well, then not so much.
If they maybe get up to like the
yeah,
4 seed, because they're not that far back, I think that improves his case a lot.
Yeah,
That
I
would, like,
agree. I
yeah.
agree. I was looking at some people commenting on some stuff the other day, though, talking about how like can't have an MVP that's 2.5 games above the play-in tournament. It's like, okay, but like they have the same amount of wins as the 76ers right now. Like just because they're in the 6th seed doesn't mean they're doing any bit worse.
And he's also like the Nuggets are like a game and a half out of being the 4 seed.
Yeah.
Like they're not even that far
Yeah,
back.
exactly.
I don't know. Jokic hate is weird. Like I hate it, man. Like I just don't get why people don't love his game because he's a joy to watch. Like the passes he makes, the way he creates for himself, gets his shots off. It's fun basketball, and he's not as bad as a defender as people want to make it out to be. And this team
it's really
wins
weird.
games.
I feel like people always have that bias against like big men who don't play great defense because obviously he used to not play great defense. People just don't like that. But like when it's a guard that's all offense and no defense, it's like, man, they can be an MVP, they can be whatever. But yeah, I think
I'm
that
bad
kind
for
of gave
that.
him a negative stigma, especially as a European big man. They hate those offensive stretch bigs type things. I hate the media, man, because
Hate
they
him.
just refuse to acknowledge his improvement.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough. I can be bad sometimes for that, for when a center isn't great defensively, because I'm someone of the notion that really believes in needing a center or at least someone on the roster that could be a solid defender and good rim protector. And so when Jokic wasn't that and Denver didn't really have it, I did have concerns for how good they could be. I knew they'd be good, and I knew Jokic was really good, but it was like, okay, is this really going to be a team that can compete down the stretch of the playoffs? That's changed now, obviously. Jokic has become a much better defender. But another point on that I want to say is defense, I feel more so than anything, and especially compared to offense, is so reputation based. Once a guy gets into the league and just has a reputation on defense, it's just stuck. And it's so hard to break that mold within the broader NBA community.
It's funny you say that, man, because we need to get sponsored by JJ Redick's podcast. We mention it like every episode.
No doubt.
I was watching the Patrick Beverly interview that dropped yesterday. He was basically saying he was like, my reputation is why like people just don't mess with me. And he was saying like basically if I was doing the same things but my last name was like Curry or Westbrook or something, he'd be like, man, I'll be making like $30 million doing what I do. And it's just like it's so crazy. Like defense has become such a like reputation based thing. Like even when we look at guys like DeJounte Murray's not like an all NBA caliber defender like he was a couple years ago, but he's still a very good defender. And he's always gonna have that reputation of, oh, he was all NBA before. Like he's gonna be always regarded as a very good perimeter defender. So I agree with that. Like it's very reputation based, and that's why people don't acknowledge when guys do make improvements on that side of the floor.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely reputations are everything. I think like even through like Steph Curry's whole cold stretch to like bring it to offense, I feel like nobody said he wasn't still the greatest shooter in the league. Because I think a lot of that is what they can do. Like Kawhi Leonard's not playing the defense he was in like 2016 because he has to do more on the other end. But if he really wanted to lock in, he can. If I need one stop per game, Kawhi can probably still do that. He just doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of things with like how the reputation kind of carries you is because everybody knows what you're capable of.
Yeah. I remember I need to stay off of NBA TikTok, man. Like I really do. Because that just reminded me, this was like maybe like over the summer. So I saw somebody on there and he was really like pushing for this narrative. He was like, man, Kawhi is not even that good of a defender. He was like, even when he was winning Defensive Player of the Year, it's like he wasn't that good. He was like, it was the Spurs system. He's not that good of a one-on-one defender. I'm like, bro, if you don't watch basketball, man, you can just say that, bro.
Yeah, that's.
If y'all ever go on NBA TikTok, it is a wild place, bro. I was having people telling me that I got to bring this up, bro. I got to bring this up. They was saying, I can't make this up. A peak Blake Griffin is a worse playmaker than a peak Kevin Love.
You literally asked me that yesterday. Blake clears. Blake clears.
100% he clears.
Watch Detroit Blake.
Yeah.
I wasn't
and
even
I think
thinking
he
of Detroit
always had
Blake,
that in
bro.
him. He just played with Chris Paul. But he didn't have to do it. He didn't have to do it in LA because he had Chris Paul, but clearly he had the ability to. Because as soon as he didn't have Chris Paul, he was doing it.
There's literally I want to say like a month or month and a half stretch in 2014. Chris Paul was out. Blake Griffin was basically running point guard. Like, bro, like Kevin Love, amazing outlet passer. Other than that, Blake Griffin is a million times the playmaker Kevin Love will ever be. Like
100%.
Come on, man.
You
also
gotta stay off TikTok, bro. What was that John Stockton thing you tweeted the other day? You said
bro,
it was 13-year-old boys.
I really had some like 13-year-old kids like in my mentions, like really pushing for John Stockton because I said it was like one of these comparison videos, and they was like, Chris Paul's a better shooter, Chris Paul's a better rebounder, and then it said Chris Paul's a better playmaker. I'm like, it's kind of iffy. And then it was like Chris Paul's no, they said John Stockton's a better defender. And I'm like, nah. I had to end the video there.
Chris Paul? Then Chris Paul?
They said John Stockton's a better defender. And then all the comments were like, oh, he's the all-time leader in steals. I'm like, bro, steals is not equal perimeter defense, bro.
Yeah, nowhere near.
Like, bro, like
James Curry has a steals title, and people say he can't play any defense.
Hey, bro, James Harden led the league in steals for a couple of seasons, and we know James Harden's not that good of a defender. People just need to start watching basketball. They just need to start watching it, bro.
Yeah, facts.
That is so tough. Stockton is probably in my top 10 point guards, but I don't know if he's in my top 5.
Bro, I just did an all-time draft with some other NBA YouTubers. Nobody took John Stockton. He was still on the board, and I didn't even think about taking him.
Yeah.
I'm probably taking. I know I'm taking Curry and Magic over him. I'm probably taking Isaiah Thomas over him.
I'm taking Jason Kidd.
I might take Steve Nash over him, to be honest.
Probably, yeah.
Probably taking Chris Paul over. Well, I mean, I just said I'll probably take Chris Paul over him.
Like, man,
there's a lot of people out there.
No disrespect to John Stockton at all. And I might get in trouble saying some of the stuff I'm about to say. No disrespect at all. What he did, he has unbreakable records and stuff. But man's played 20 seasons. If you miss 18 games, you should have some unbreakable records if you're a starting point guard on a good team and a very good system. I think he's more of a product of playing with Karl Malone and in Jerry Sloan's system than him being some all-time great point guard.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
If he would have passed less and scored the ball more, it would have made their offense more multidimensional, and they probably would have been better.
100%. I don't think he had that in his bag for real. Like, honestly, if John Stockton was in the NBA right now, he'd really just be another guy. That's how I feel. That's how I feel. Like, nothing he did, like, physically or skills-wise really just jumps off the charts. Like, that's super elite. Like, you could say that about some other guys from older eras, like Jordan. Like, Jordan is as athletically gifted as anybody in the NBA right now. Like, you can say that about some like Charles Barkley and, Moses Malone. Like, you can say that about some guys. John Stockton was just like a normal dude who played in a great system and got the most out of it.
Yeah. I do think he ran the pick and roll very well, but I think he also had a great pick and roll partner. I don't think he'd be just another guy, but do I think he would be the person that or at least a lot of people will remember him as? Probably not.
Yeah, I agree. And Karl Malone, as you mentioned, was a big benefit to him. Big benefit to him.
The pick and roll is so important. It's so important to modern basketball, and I think the fact that he was like a pioneer, like the modern pick and roll at least, I gotta give him some respect there. I won't give any respect to Karl Malone. I will not give any respect to Karl Malone. But
like you said, he might be a top 10 point guard, but if so, he's like 9 or 10. He's like 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Oscar Robertson or John Stockton?
Give me Chris Paul over both of them, personally.
I agree. I agree.
Nah, that's like it's no disrespect, man, but we got to get real at some point, man. I don't understand, like, lately and we're really off topic. That's my fault. But lately, I've been seeing just so much, like, because of this NBA 75 list, like, been seeing a lot of John Stockton love out of nowhere. Tony Parker
That
love
Tony
came out of
Parker love
nowhere.
was crazy.
That was the most random stuff I've seen in so long. And look, I was an advocate. Like, I really loved Tony Parker's game. Like, I loved his game. But people was really, like, mad he didn't make the list. Like, man, where did this Tony Parker love come from, bro?
I'm about to say something real controversial, bro. If Tony Parker, he's gonna be a Hall of Famer, bro. I think he's only a Hall of Famer because he played with Tim Duncan and Greg Popovich, bro. I'm sorry. Don't come at me, but bro, if Tony Parker was drafted to like at least 20 of the 30 teams in the NBA, I think when he got drafted, there might have still been like 29, whatever. But if he got drafted to at least like 20 other teams, he's probably in the Hall of like very good.
Yeah, I can't really disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of players like that, to be honest. Like, not to say that they couldn't succeed other places, but there was a range of systems they could have succeeded in. Like Draymond, I think, is an example of that. If he isn't in a team where he gets to actually be a point forward, gets to be a facilitator, and he's just used like a power forward on any other team, you don't get to see the true skill set, the true impact, and the true influence of Draymond Green and what he can do on both sides of the floor. Have a few rings alongside that helps. Now, could he still have made it the Hall of Fame on another team? Sure. But being in the system in Golden State and how they utilize him has certainly helped.
That's a very good point. And I don't disagree with you at all, Gabe. Like, sometimes getting drafted to a place, like, it's just a match made in heaven for you. I look at a guy like Steve Nash. He was really good in Dallas, but he was an MVP when he went back to the Suns and played under Mike D'Antoni. Like, he became an MVP. So sometimes it's just like, you know, you're a good talent. Like, you're going to be able to hoop anywhere, but it takes the right culture, the right coach, the right teammates to really unlock the best version of yourselves. Draymond Green's a great example.
I do think, and this is going to sound almost weird, I think Manu Ginobili would have been – I think he would have been iconic no matter where he went, just because of the Euro step and, like, the crafty left-hand guard play that I think he popularized for at least a new generation. I feel like what he contributed to the game, like, and his legacy is more impactful than Tony Parker's legacy.
I can agree with that. I don't know who was more important to those teams. That's maybe a conversation for another day. But I would say Ginobili is probably like more talented. I feel like he was kind of on a little bit of a leash though. Like, I would have loved to see him in a just completely different situation from the jump and see how great his career could have been.
Not to mention, didn't he have like quite a few like accolades in his international career, Ginobili?
I think he won a gold medal in 2004.
Yeah.
Probably won a bunch of like EuroLeague stuff or something. Probably. Dude was elite for sure. But I remember I got into an argument with an old head once, and he was trying to tell me he tried to tell me that Ginobili was better than Paul Pierce. I had to draw the line right there.
Yeah. Ginobili, he has a EuroLeague title and the gold medal. So like his overseas stuff, just because the NBA or the Basketball Hall of Fame, it also includes things that happen outside the NBA. I think that Ginobili would have been a Hall of Famer regardless.
100%.
The Basketball Hall of Fame is just so easy to get in.
Also true. True.
Once again, I was on TikTok. And somebody posed a question. They was like, is Iguodala going to make the Hall of Fame? I said, yeah, he's going to make it someday. Probably won't be like first, second, or third ballot, but he'll make it someday. Maybe like 10 years after he retires. He'll make it. He'll get in at some point.
If the Warriors win one more while he's still playing, and he's a 4-time champ, All-Star, Finals MVP, yeah, you're making it. 4-time champ, Finals MVP, that's pretty much all you need to hear.
Real talk. Yeah. Like there's some names in the Hall of Fame that's just like, how did you get there, my guy? I can't think of many off the top of my head. One that's kind of like Bill Wallen. How did you make it, my boy? No disrespect. You won an MVP, you won a championship, but Hall of Fame, interesting.
Yeah, like if you comparing it to other leagues, it's definitely such a big difference. Like, I love Kyle Lowry, Toronto Raptors fan. He's my guy. But like compared to most other sports, you wouldn't think of a guy at Kyle Lowry's caliber being at this point probably more likely than not likely to get into the Hall of Fame. And like Lowry's a good player, multi-time All-Star, but he's not like, wow, people are going to remember him 10, 20, 30, 40 years after he's playing as some amazing basketball player.
I will say, I just looked up Bill Walton's accolades. He did win like 2 college titles, Final Four Most Outstanding Player twice, and he was a 3-time National College Player of the Year.
I think they need to
like I
change
said, since it includes your stuff outside of the NBA, I think that boosts him. And 2 rings, then Finals MVP. I feel like he does have enough.
I think yeah. Okay, my bad. But I feel like it would be better if it was like, okay, College Basketball Hall of Fame, boom. And then NBA Hall of Fame, boom. And then International Hall of Fame, boom. I feel like that would be a lot smoother because that's basically what other leagues do. Like the NFL is not the Football Hall of Fame. It's the NFL Hall of Fame. Baseball, the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Basketball is the only sport that's like, we're going to take into account everything that you've ever done. And we'll judge you based on
it does give awareness to like other levels and like the global aspect of the game. I think it gives respect to foreign players. Like, the only reason we know about the greatness of Arvydas Sabonis is because it includes like overseas stuff. If it was just his NBA career, we'd be like, who is this guy? Some like random, he was okay, but the man was nice. So I think for the globalization of the game, and then especially I think integrating some of the great European players, if we were more aware of like European greatness and like what goes on in the EuroLeague, well, we have Jokic around now to appreciate. I don't know, man. So
yeah, for sure. To be fair, hockey is also an international hockey Hall of Fame as well. But yeah, I agree. It is interesting to have that dynamic of it being international, but it definitely helps make us more aware of things. And to be fair, the U.S. not being as good in recent years in international competition has also raised awareness to some of the international play and quality in competitions. So
definitely true. What's up, do y'all want to talk about the Ringers top 25 players from this season?
Man, yeah, I don't think we got to go player by player, but I think we can talk about our like general takeaways, how we feel about some of these placements.
For sure.
Yeah, because when I looked at it for the majority, it's a pretty decent list. Like, it's respectable. Like, I think they put a lot of it into it. Like, I think they had a panel of like 5 guys, and they each just ranked them, and then they kind of averaged it out, like, based on where they rank guys. So I think it was a pretty decent list. I was surprised with some of the names that did get left off. But for the most part, most of these guys are pretty deserving. They've had very good seasons.
Yeah, I agree. It's not outrageous like lots of the Bleacher Report articles you see, that's for sure. But yeah, there's definitely a couple of guys you could argue to include on the list, but all in all, there's nothing outrageous. There's definitely a few things you could debate about, but all in all, it's fairly fair.
Yeah, there's like a couple of guys where I'm like, there might be a couple of spots too low or a couple of spots too high, but like top 5, I think the top 5, that's very easily the top 5. Whether you want to say like, obviously the top 3 are the MVP candidates. Like we've been talking about that for weeks. So whatever order you want to put them in, like that's fine. I think then the common person would round out the like top 5 with KD and Steph, and then probably LeBron right after that. So up through 6 is like, hey, it's a great list, man. Personally, I would probably have Luka a little bit lower. He was 10th on their list last year, and I don't necessarily think he's been that much better than last year compared to the jump that some other players have made. But him at 7, like if you say, oh, I think he should be at 7, like I'm not going to openly disagree with you or argue against it because he's been top 10 caliber. Another placement I really like before I let you guys go, Jimmy Butler at 11, I didn't think he'd get that much respect. For me, if like he kind of goes a little bit closer to like maybe 15, 16 sometimes. Like last season, he might have fell down a little bit, but like there's been several stretches of his career, whether that be like 2018, what he did with the Wolves, to like especially 2020, him putting himself like towards that top 10. I like that he is there because I'm high on Jimmy Butler.
I think Jimmy's got to the point in his career where, like, kind of similar to Draymond, like, even if he has a game where he scores, like, 8 points and they win, people still respect Jimmy Butler. He's just that type of impact guy. Even though he sold me on a parlay a few weeks ago, bro. Like, he sold me. I needed the
You
man to get
betting on
20.
Jimmy is crazy.
I needed him to get 20, bro. And he had, like, 6 points. I'm like, really, Jimmy? And they lost that game against the Bucks, man. That's why they lost. Because Jimmy sold me. But, nah, Jimmy's sensational, bro. We know that. One thing
That
that
game they lost
surprised
to the Bucks was so bogus.
yeah, fact.
Sorry.
A couple things that surprised me. One, when I looked at the honorable mentions, I saw Mikal Bridges get mentioned. So I'm happy to see it. I don't know how much consideration he got, but shout out to Mikal. And they had one Cleveland Cavalier player. They had Jared Allen at, I think, like 8. I think he was like 20 something. Let me see real quick. I think he was 21. Yeah, he was 21.
Jared Allen, yeah, he was 21.
I think him and Darius Garland are kind of interchangeable. I might side a little more with DG, but I do like seeing Jared Allen get his respect because he's been very good this season. It's kind of interesting, man, because one guy was a for sure all-star and the other one was a replacement. Kind of interesting how they went about that.
I think
Yeah.
Darius Garland is a little bit more important to the team. I think Jared Allen's skill set is a little bit more rare nowadays. I feel like a center that's really that good at what he does, you kind of see less of those now. But, like, still, Darius Garland, I would say point guard is the most important position in basketball today. And if you say take one of them off the team, I feel like the Cavs with Darius and no Jarrett are better than the Cavs with Jarrett and no Darius.
I think that's the case because they still have Mobley, who is very, very good, even as a rookie.
That is true because they don't have Sexton as a different guard. So you haven't seen, like, Sexton with Allen or something. So, yeah, obviously there's not enough of a sample to really say, like, which is more impactful to the team. I mean, you're kind of seeing Garland solo impact now, but that's still even itself a small sample size so far.
Yeah.
The Mikal Bridges thing, though, that's dope because the Suns, they were still winning games with Booker and Paul out. So, like, yeah, him and Ayton were, like, the best players on the team when that happened. To see Mikal, though, and not see, like, Ayton at all is kind of surprising.
I think Mikal's impact is just so unique compared to DeAndre Ayton's, especially because of, like, how good JaVale's been as a backup. And then you throw in Bismack Biyombo, who's been pretty solid as a third guy. Mikal is very unique to this team. He goes out there, defends the best perimeter player pretty much every single night, shoots league average from 3, 36%, and he's still giving like 14 points a game. Like, it's been an improvement of a season for him. I think it's gone very under the radar too. I'll be interested to see like what kind of consideration he gets for like defensive player of the year. He definitely should be an all defensive player this season. I don't know how he didn't make it last year. That's still kind of crazy to me, but yeah, he's definitely been a big piece of the Suns' success this year.
Let me ask you this, both of you guys, really. For a long time, we know the importance of 3-and-D players. For a long time, I think, like, the prime, like, person you looked at when you're like, who is the embodiment of just a perfect 3-and-D player? We thought of Klay Thompson. I think we all thought of Klay Thompson for a long time. Has that become Mikal Bridges? Is he, like, the defining, like, best at that role in the league now?
Maybe. I think once the Raptors are healthy, we haven't really seen OG a ton with a full healthy Raptors team. He wasn't really truly a 3-and-D at the start of the year just because Gary and Siakam were out. But I think OG's in that conversation still as well when the Raptors are healthy and he truly is a 3-and-D guy. But Mikal Bridges fully deserves his spot in that as well. He's probably better than OG is and more versatile than OG is. I think he's a better off-ball defender as well. I think Mikal's definitely at the top of that list. But I think OG deserves some love in that as well.
Yeah, I feel like those are probably, like, off the top of my head, those are probably the best too. I'm having a hard time thinking of that many guys. Like, there's some, like, Jay Crowder's cool, but he's not, like, in that tier. Danny Green? He's kind of over the hill a little bit. Like, there's not really, like, for something that's so premier in basketball, like there's not that many like super elite 3-and-D guys in the league right now, which is kind of crazy because a few years ago I felt like there was a lot more. But I would say Mikhail's probably
Yeah, I'm just looking at this
premier.
list, and sorry, I'll let you go ahead.
No, you're good. That was basically my point.
Oh, well, yeah, it's just looking at this list, like, there's not a lot of players on this list that you can really see do a lot of great things without the ball. Obviously, they're not like bad off the ball, but it's like players that just fit anywhere. I would almost take Mikhail over like anybody in the top 25 to fit in any roster, which is crazy to say. Obviously, I'm not saying that he should be like over any of them, but
Yeah.
his versatility is crazy, and that's why I think he could be in like the top 25 by next year, and like that Klay Thompson type way to where people still call Klay Thompson, I feel like top 20, top 25 when he was the third best player on his own team for a while. So Mikal can do it. I also like seeing, I think Pascal Siakam might have low-key made the list if he didn't miss the first month of the season, because he's been nice this year. He's been real nice.
I agree.
Pascal has been great.
Shout out to DeAndre Hunter as well. I think DeAndre Hunter should have a bit of a spot in that conversation as well. I don't think he's quite at that level yet, but I think he's getting there.
Another guy
you mean in the 3-and-D conversation or the top 25?
3-and-D. Yeah.
I was about to say, you were calling DeAndre Hunter top 25.
I like him, but I don't like him that much.
I mess with DeAndre Hunter a lot. I mess with him a lot. He sold me in a parlay too, bro. I think I needed 3 assists from him. Just 3 assists. Man's had 1. He had 1 assist, bro. Like,
He averages.
He averages like 1.5, but man, you can't get an accidental couple assists, bro. Like a lob to Clint Capella.
Bro, you bet assist on players that aren't Trae Young on the Hawks. If you bet on a heliocentric offense like that, bro, I'm only betting assist on
you can't make the extra pass. Like, oh my God, man. It's crazy. The Hawks, here's my advice to people who do parlays. Stay away from the Hawks. Just stay away from them, bro. You can bet on Trae Young. That's a safe bet. But anybody else, stay away from him. Even Clint Capella, because, bro, I needed 1 more rebound. Would have won the parlay. This was against the Celtics like 2 weeks ago. This man, Nate McMillan, Clint needed 1 more board with a whole quarter to go, and it's still a close game. He had Clint on the bench the entire fourth quarter. The entire fourth quarter, bro. I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done with the Hawks, bro.
Well, the Hawks are playing tonight, so it's a good night.
Man.
Here's your reminder to bet responsibly, man. Not on the Hawks.
I wasn't throwing like hundreds of dollars. It was like $5 parlays. I'm not that crazy.
Hey, Calvin really said he only bet $1,500, and that was not close to true. So.
That man was taking games off though to make parlays. That's kind of crazy. But back to the list. Jrue Holiday made the top 20. That was maybe a little surprising-ish.
Surprising. I like it, though.
Yeah. Chris Middleton wasn't on the list, though. All-star. No. Chris Mitty.
I will give him his credit. He has been better as of late. I will give him that. His last couple of weeks have been quite good. But, yeah, he definitely shouldn't be on this list.
Most definitely.
Holiday has been real nice, but I definitely expected, I would have expected DG to be above him on the list. I probably would have expected a couple people to be above him on the list, to be honest. Like, people that were also in the top 25, like some of those bottom 5. I don't know, but I do think experts probably respect Jrue Holiday more than the average fan does. So I think the fact that it's, ranked by actual media people, they usually give Jrue his respect.
Usually, yeah.
Sure.
I can't get down with this though. James Harden at 18. We know the start of the season wasn't great for him. Then you got Rudy Gobert at 17. I can't get down with that, man.
Yeah, that's tough.
I think Rudy Gobert should.
That's tough.
I think Gobert should be on that bullet point that says the players who fell out of the top 25 from last year were as follows.
I'm not gonna say all that. Man.
No, I think he should still be in there, but Harden should be in front of him for sure.
Bam ain't on the list, and
Jaren
Rudy
Jackson
is.
Jr.'s got an
Give
argument
me
as well.
Bam. Give
I'm
me
not gonna
Jaren over Rudy, bro.
I'm not gonna get that disrespectful, bro, because one, both of those, Bam, and I think Jaren's missed some time this season too, like a decent amount of time. Rudy, when he's not on the court, the Jazz are basically they look like a lottery team. They can't stop anybody. Rudy's impact is definitely true, but I can't him above James Harden, even though it's just one spot. I can't deal with that, man.
I cannot get down with Rudy Gobert anywhere near a top 20 until he stops being so exposable, man. You can't expose Bam Adebayo in a playoff series. You can't expose like a Pascal Siakam. You can't even expose Mikal Bridges in a playoff series. You might be able to expose James Harden a little bit. We've seen that happen many times. But, bro, like, I think I just value playoff performance a little higher than the average person. Rudy Gobert is showing, oh, yeah, he can play great defense in the regular season. And I guess if you said the list is based off of who's having the top 25 regular seasons, okay, I'll give you that. But if it's who's the best player in the league, who's a better player than who, Bam is better.
So let's go back to Pat Bev's interview yesterday, because he was basically saying like he thinks Defensive Player of the Year they should factor in more of players guarding the best guy every single night. And basically he was referring to Rudy. He was saying like he doesn't do that. Like Rudy's not guarding the best dude every single night. And there's not very many like bigs that do that. But Defensive Player of the Year definitely favors the bigs in the NBA because they look at all these advanced metrics and things that factor in defensive rebounds and stuff like that. Do y'all think like they should change the way like they look at Defensive Player of the Year? Because perennially, Rudy's probably going to win it, maybe even again, just because he has a reputation. The advanced numbers love him, and the Jazz are a better defensive team with him on the floor in the regular season. Do y'all think they should maybe change the way that they vote for Defensive Player of the Year, or how they like maybe factor in the criteria to win the award?
I would like them
I like the
to,
way they
but at the end of the day, I do feel like a big like Rudy just can have more of an impact on the defense. Like perimeter defense is important, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to take a valuable rim defender over someone who can lock down someone on the perimeter more often than not. A good perimeter defender is very important, don't get me wrong. Guys like Mikal Bridges, those types of wing defenders, those guys are crucial. But a wing player can only guard one guy. And sure, a big can only guard one guy, but if you have someone that can protect the rim at such an elite level, it just makes it so much harder for the opposing team to score from a team standpoint at the rim. I think you can just have more of an overall impact. I would like guards to get more love defensively. I don't know if I don't think it'll ever happen for the Defensive Player of the Year award, but I think at the end of the day, centers can have more of a team impact on defense, but wings and guards do have an individual matchup influence that is very important as well.
To me, it should be the guy that's the best in the most situations, that succeeds in the most situations. I think we saw that with Giannis when he won it. He is great on the ball. He's great on the perimeter. He's great in the paint. He's also great as a help guy. And so whether it's a one-on-one situation versus a big or maybe a smaller guy, obviously he might not match up with like the fastest of the fastest, but the average guard in the league, yeah, he's doing a pretty good job. And then he's probably the best help defender in the entire association. So I think guys like that, like Draymond, he pretty much succeeds in every situation except maybe like top tier big men because they just have the size advantage and can probably take advantage of him there some. But like I think the guy who has the perfect combination of being great in the system and being great as an individual defender, that should be the Defensive Player of the Year. And to me, Rudy is great within the Jazz's system that funnels guys towards the rim and allows him to take advantage of his rim protecting ability. But overall, I don't think he's the best individual defender, and he's probably not even a top 5 to 10 individual one-on-one defender in the league. We even seen like one-on-one, he's been cooked by like Jokic and Embiid so many times. And so it's like, if you're not even doing great jobs in the top tier big men, it's really just the system that it looks like is carrying you.
Definitely, it's an interesting conversation. Pat Bev was saying he thinks the coaches should vote on it because essentially those are the guys that are game planning every single night for these great defenders. And the media guys, I just feel like they get very repetitive, man, and they just look at all these advanced stats, blah, 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 that nobody knows what the hell this stuff even means. And that's how you see Rudy's like, what, a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year winner? I think. And he
Might be 2.
it's
Either 2 or 3. I feel like
2, but let's look.
I feel like he won it back to
It
back
is 3.
before
It is
Giannis
3.
won it.
It's
It's
3.
3.
Yeah.
See, I don't know.
5-time All Defensive, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year.
He's great.
But I feel like it's case sensitive because I can say all day that I'm like, yeah, I like the versatility and being good at multiple situations. But you know how many Defensive Player of the Years historically have just been guys that were great paint protectors. But I think that also goes to say that was just the league back then. And a league with more versatile offense, you need defenders with more versatile defense to counteract that.
Yeah, I agree. I think Giannis, to your point on Giannis was perfect. Like, if you can have someone who can do that multiple role, that versatility on the defensive end, that's always going to be more valuable, and it is always going to lead to being a more defensive player. And at the end of the day, he just can do more than Rudy can on the defensive end, and he really isn't any bit worse, significantly at least, as a rim protector. He just isn't, and he can just do that much more. So I agree, having that versatility is really important. And I like that point that you mentioned, Tyrik and Pat Bev, saying that the coaches should vote on the defensive standpoint. Coaches know it better than anyone else what's going on from the intricacies of defense from an individual and a team perspective, specifically compared to the media. It sucks, but like there's some media guys that don't even watch basketball and just get their notes from guys. Like it's been well known for a while now. Like Colin Coward has got his notes from a guy who watches basketball for him, and that's where he gets his take.
That's funny.
The man doesn't even watch basketball, and yet he talks about it. Like,
I remember
it's
one
wild.
year. I think it was 2017. Somebody said they didn't give Avery Bradley their all defensive vote because Devin Booker dropped 70 on the Celtics, and Avery Bradley did not play that game. So I'm like, bro, y'all really just don't watch basketball.
Terrible,
That's crazy.
It's terrible, man.
Yeah.
I will say, if you had to ask me right now, my top 5 defenders in the league, I can give you a pretty confident answer of, in no particular order, Bam, Mikal, Jaren, Draymond, and Giannis.
I have to throw, bro, Matisse is so disruptive. He has to be in that top 5. Matisse is so disrupted on the defensive side.
I'd put him up there. He could probably be 6 or 7. I think Ben Simmons would be up there too if he was playing, because we know if he was on the court, he would be in there as well.
Let me ask y'all this. If y'all had a vote, who's winning Defensive Player of the Year? Who are y'all giving it to?
Giannis. It's my
Giving
vote.
it to Giannis. Okay.
Yeah, Giannis is my guy. He's just got way more versatility than anyone else, I think, and a bit more impact. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is in there as well for that type of versatility. But I think Giannis is still just a bit of step ahead of him.
That's Jaren would be my vote.
Yeah, he's there.
I'm a homer that likes to see new guys win, but I do gotta respect Giannis. But if it went Giannis, Jaren, or even Mikal for what he's been doing, while especially like I said, while their top 2 players were out keeping the ship afloat and still pulling out wins, it could really be any of them.
It would be nice to see Mikal. I don't know. I don't even know if he'd be like top 3, honestly.
But yeah, like I said, that perfect combination thing, he really doesn't have as much, he doesn't have that paint presence of the other guys.
Yeah, I agree.
So
yeah, speaking of Jaren, Jaren was going crazy last night in the fourth quarter. That was so fun to watch.
He had 3 blocks on dang near back-to-back possessions.
Something like that.
The block he had, I think it was on Barrett, RJ Barrett. He just timed it up so perfectly, and it led to a jaw fast break. Dog, Jaren's he's coming into his own, man. It's kind of going a little under the radar because of how spectacular Ja has been, but he's been really good this season, and I think he's like tapping into what like his NBA role is, and it's being like that stretch big that is really elite on the defensive side of the floor.
Yeah.
I always thought he was on a really good trajectory. When he got drafted, I always thought like I never thought he'd be the best player on a great team, but I definitely thought he could be like a number 2 or 3, like very impactful. And so the fact that they got Ja, it really sucks that Jared missed like over a year of play pretty much. I think it was over a year. It felt like he didn't play for a very long time, but I'm happy that didn't derail him too much and he's able to actually get where he should have been like probably a couple years ago if he didn't get hurt.
Yeah, the injuries have been his biggest like flaw, but he's been relatively healthy this year. He's been, really playing his best basketball, I'd say. He's been really good. That Memphis team has just been really good. I don't know if I heard it correctly, but they were saying like they're one of the top defenses in the league. I don't know how true that is.
I think that's about right. About right. And they were like terrible defensively to start the year as well, but they 10, 15 games in and around when Dylan Brooks came back, they just flipped a switch, and they've been one of the top defensive teams since, for sure.
They're second in defensive rating, it looks like. Or
the Celtics first.
No.
Celtics are first, yeah. Celtics,
Let me reorder this.
Phoenix, Cleveland, Miami, Dallas, Clippers, Memphis.
Yeah, they're 8th.
I was going to come into this episode. I was really going to push the Rob Williams DPOY candidacy. I think he has a good case, but I don't know. That's a race that's just very, like, kind of up in the air still, man. I felt like when Draymond was, before he got hurt, I felt like it was his award to lose, basically, but the injury really killed that. So now it's like, man, you got your Giannis's, you got your Bams, you got your Jarens, Rob Williams is making a run, maybe McHale's in the conversation. So many candidates for this award, man, kind of similar to the MVP.
It's just hard to put it on Rob Williams because that team has so many good defenders.
But he's probably the most impactful, man. I can't lie. He erases so much stuff at the rim every night. So much. Like, he really makes up for a lot.
Yeah, he does. He's really good.
It's always a convincing argument. If you say you're the best defender on the best defensive team, that's like MVP cases. You say you're the best offensive player on the best team in the league. I mean, a lot of times that's what gives people that award. So you can go ahead and make the case if you want. I mean, obviously number 2 barely is Golden State, and we just said it was Draymond's award to lose. They probably would have still been number 1 if he was still playing. So
yeah.
But then Phoenix and Cleveland are right behind, and I feel like you've heard Jared Allen and like McHale in a lot of talks. So yeah, just having that top rating. Miami's right there at 5. Miami being at 5 is crazy because with everybody they've had out, I feel like most like Jimmy and Bam being out, those are like, yes, your best players, but also your best defenders.
Yeah,
that's the system.
Yeah, that's crazy. Shout out to Dallas being at 6 too, after being like such an offense-oriented team for the last few years.
Hey,
Jason Kidd, man, that's what he does.
Shout out to Jason Kidd, bro. He was getting a lot of hell off season when he got hired for other reasons. Early on in the season, a lot of people was trying to discredit him, but he's done a very good job with this team, man. Got to give him his credit because he's been great.
100%.
Man, but yeah, this is probably gonna be a long episode, man. I feel like we've been recording forever.
Yeah, I think it's probably slightly shorter than last week, but not far off.
All good. Hey, we had some good discussions, man.
Yeah, definitely.
John Stockton slander. Nah, shout out John Stockton, man. Felt like I was being a little harsh on the guy.
Shout out to like the 9th best point guard of all time, man.
Maybe 9th. He might be 10th.
Hey, top 10 all time ain't bad. It ain't bad. But better defender than Chris Paul? Yeah, we got to stop there.
They gave him the playmaking too, and I'm like, that's even a little iffy in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't even think that's close either.
John Stockton or Bob Cousy, man? Who are you taking, man?
I guess Stockton. I'm gonna be real. I said this on the pod before. I'm giving Bob Cousy 30.
Yeah,
I'm giving Bob
I feel
Cousy
that.
30.
They said, what'd they say? They said he was dribbling right with his left hand.
Yeah, 30, bro. No disrespect. Celtics legend. I'm giving them 30.
Yeah, it's completely different time. Well, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of 3 Point Weekly. Be sure to let us know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Your favorites for MVP, your favorites for Defensive Player of the Year, whether you think John Stockton is the top 10 point guard or not. Be sure to let us know. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel, follow, leave a 5-star rating review, and we'll be sure to see you guys again next week. Peace.